Your PCM is not the one trying to make it hard for you to get your medication. My name is Godfrey Rivera. I'm a family medicine PA. I'm also the founder and chief clinician of TrueCare DPC here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Now, while we are a membership-based practice where we do not accept insurance for any of our services, many of our patients still utilize insurance for other services outside of the practice. Something we continue to run into on a regular basis is patients having a hard time being able to get their medication when they go to the pharmacy. Now, this can happen for many reasons, including availability or issues with cost, but one of the most common reasons is somebody is behind the obstruction of you getting access to your care. And no, it is not your PCM, and no, it is not your pharmacist. Now, this is something that I regularly address in my clinic, and I've shared multiple different videos about this in pieces on our Facebook page, which you can follow if you're interested. But I want to get a little bit more into the details about how the healthcare system works and how it affects y'all, and how we can understand why many times it becomes difficult to get access to your medications, even or especially if you invoke the insurance mafia. The first thing we have to understand is that whenever anybody seeks any kind of care, whether it's for routine primary care, some urgent care visit, or some side of emergency, what you are seeking is a service, okay? Plain and simple. In the simplest terms, you are seeking a service, okay? So when you go to your clinician, you are asking for medical services. Now, every practice is different. Every practice offers a different level of services when you go as a patient. But the key here is that you are asking for the services that practice provides. To use an example, at TrueCare DPC, our patients pay a once-a-month membership fee that covers all their visits, that covers routine labs because we pay for those, and it covers generic medication shipped directly to their door. It also covers any kind of treatments that I do in office, such as dry needling or small surgical procedures like toenail removal, suture repair, laceration repair with sutures. Anything that I can do or anybody on my staff can do, that is a covered service for the monthly membership fee. Anything outside of this practice is no longer a service that we provide. Now, as a clinician, one of the things that I do is that I diagnose and treat patients, right? I have patients come to me, they share stories with me, I do an exam, we do any testings if needed, and then at the end of the day, we come up with a treatment plan. And sometimes that treatment plan includes medication. And so when medication is necessary, I write a prescription. Now in 2026, we usually do electronic prescriptions, but the point is that part of the services I do is after diagnosing and treating, part of the treatment may be writing a prescription. Writing that prescription is a covered service. It's part of what I do. However, filling that prescription is something separate entirely. There are some medical practices, including direct primary cares, where pharmacy services are included, meaning they can fill the prescription in the clinic itself. But most primary care practices, whether they're direct primary care or traditional insurance care, don't offer that service. So that's a separate service. The pharmacy service, the filling of the prescription, is a separate service. This gets a lot of people because people will have a single insurance policy and don't realize that insurance may cover the visits but not the treatments. It may cover the treatments but not the medications. It may cover the medications but not the referrals. So because each of those things are different services, that allows the insurance mafia to slice up the pie however they see fit. And of course, you and I know that the way that they divide that up is usually going to be buried somewhere in fine print that is hard for anybody but lawyers to understand. But this is part of what explains why you may feel that you have great insurance but not get access to services the way you expected to get them. So coming back to the distinction between the services that we provide versus the pharmacy services, that's something different. So let's say that I prescribe the medication. I have now completed for that visit my services, and I say, okay, go ahead and get this prescription filled. What you need to understand is that prescription can be filled anywhere where a pharmacist is legally allowed to do so. Part of what the pharmacist's job is to ensure that the person who wrote the prescription is legally qualified to be able to make the kind of medical decisions to decide that prescription is appropriate. Another thing that they do is to make sure that they review your medical history, they look at your age, they look at your risk factors, and they're supposed to confirm that the prescriber didn't make a mistake. Because we're all human, okay? And so even the best of us may prescribe something without keeping in mind possible interactions or the way this can affect a specific patient. That happens. happens, okay? And so what the pharmacist does, the service they provide is confirming that whoever gave you that prescription is legally allowed to do so, okay? And not just legally, but that means that they are licensed, that means that they are trained, and they have the right credentials to be able to safely prescribe to you. And then confirming that that prescription is truly appropriate and safe for you, taking into account your medical history, any other medications that you're taking, so on and so forth. That's the service. And then once they do that, they function as the supplier of the medication. All that are services covered by the pharmacy. That's what they choose to do. All right, because there's a service here, the question is who's gonna pay? If you choose to pay cash, that's very simple for any business owner. Cash is one of the simplest ways for anyone who provides services to be compensated. Now, we all got to make a living, right? And so we at TrueCare DPC prefer cash because it simplifies everything. One flat monthly rate covers all the visits. No need to negotiate with the insurance mafia and fight for this and code for that and it's no need for all of that. Okay? And the same thing is true for a pharmacy. In fact, we are able to provide medications to our patients because we pay cash on a monthly basis to a pharmacy in South Carolina, and that takes care of that. But many pharmacies and practices are willing to accept insurance as a form of compensation. Now, here's what you have to understand as a patient. When you invoke the insurance mafia and you give your insurance number and you say they're going to pay, here's what's happening. You don't realize this, and that's okay. Most people don't realize this. That's why we're watching this, right? You are actually not paying at the time that you render the card. Now, if you have a copay, yes. Okay, yes, of course, you're paying part of it. But the pharmacist is not fully compensated, okay? If there is no copay, they definitely haven't gotten paid. And they may not get paid because it is the policy of the insurance mafia to avoid paying out claims. When you use the insurance for medication, that's a claim that the pharmacist now has to submit to hopefully be compensated by the insurance mafia, okay? All right, so what that means is that the pharmacist is providing the service and they're technically unpaid until that claim gets approved. Now, if anybody runs a small business, you know that that's actually common practice for many types of businesses, especially things like contractor work where they're doing net 30s, net 90s, and so on, to allow some flexibility, and business owners need to account for those things, certainly. But understand that that is technically a risk being taken by the business owners when they are providing the supplies, the medications, the service, and they're not getting compensated. There's not necessarily a guarantee of compensation. Okay, so you file this claim. Now, you invoke insurance and the pharmacist goes to file the claim. What that is saying to the insurance company, hey, is I need to get paid. Another way to think about that is, hey, I need your money, right? The insurance companies famously do not like to give up money. So like any good mafia, they're trying to figure out ways to weasel out of that. And so one of the things that they do is they use prior authorizations. Now, you may or may not have heard about those, so let me go ahead and explain what a prior authorization is. Formally, a prior authorization is marketed as a tool that insurance companies use to ensure stewardship. Okay, it's a way that they're making sure that prescribers are not inappropriately prescribing things that patients don't need, and ensuring that the cost does not get driven up because of that. Okay, that's a formal or semi-formal definition or explanation of what that is. In practice, however, a prior authorization is a wonderful way to obstruct care. Okay, it is a way to legally practice medicine without a license. What do I mean by that? When the insurance mafia requires a prior authorization, what they want is justification for this prescription. And I really want you to think about what that means. Essentially, these non-medical personnel are now coming to the prescriber or to the pharmacist and saying, prove it. Make me a good argument that says this patient needs the medication. In order for them to know that it's a good argument, they need to know medicine themselves. And they need to practice clinical judgment. And they need to make medical decisions in order to agree or disagree with you. And that is really practicing medicine, right? Without a license in this case. So what they do is they require prior authorizations. And when they do that, they've basically told the pharmacist, yo, we are not agreeing to pay for this until somebody justifies this prescription. All right. Now, the pharmacist is not allowed to practice medicine. The pharmacist isn't some massive insurance mafia that gets to do whatever they want. And so they're not allowed to diagnose and treat or make those kind of medical decisions. So what do? They turn to the prescriber. Now, they're turning to the prescriber, not because it is necessary for this justification. They're turning to this prescriber because they want to get paid and they deserve to get paid. And right now it is unclear whether or not they will get paid. If the insurance mafia has already said that without a prior authorization, they're not paying for this, and the pharmacist gives you the medication anyways, they gave it to you away for free. Now, if they have a program that lets them do that, great. But if they don't, they just took a loss. Okay? So what they're doing when they go to your prescriber is they're trying to ensure that your insurance is going to pay. So that's what it comes down to. Okay? Now, where is the problem here? Well, it depends on how you choose to look at it. But of course, as somebody who doesn't accept insurance, what I see here is that the insurance mafia is playing games with your prescription and putting the pharmacist in a tough position. And then the buck gets passed to your prescriber. Now, your prescriber's already done their service. They've already diagnosed you. They've already developed a treatment plan. They've already written the prescription. They are not the ones stepping in the way of you getting your prescription. As far as we are concerned, in my head, I've given you the tools that you need so that you can go to the pharmacy and get your medication. But lo and behold, there's a third party involved, someone that I did not invite to the party and the pharmacist did not invite to the party. And they're playing silly games. Now, the buck has been passed back to me. I've already explained why you needed the medication to you. Now I'm not explaining it to you. Now I have to explain it to the insurance company. Now, typically what that looks like is me stopping what I'm doing, making time out of my day so that I can upload records to some electronic system to then send them to the insurance company so that they can then reject it, then send me a button, and then I click appeal, and then they go, oh, okay, that's fine. Never mind. We were wrong. Okay, you have to understand, the vast majority of prior authorizations that are rejected get overturned simply with an appeal. Why is that the case? Not because new information came up, but because the insurance mafia is really just trying to delay care so that they can hold on to money for longer. That's really what it comes down to. Okay, it's a method of obstruction. But what has happened with me as the clinician is now I've had to take time out of the day, take time out of patient care to fight and do this fight. All right, now, onesies and twosies, we can do that, especially at a practice where most of our patients try to pay cash for things, or we don't have to have a high volume of patients. But what happens when we do? What happens when it gets really complicated? And what happens when they reject it? Is that because I didn't do my job? Not at all. I already decided that you needed the medication. I already wrote the prescription in accordance with the most recent evidence. It's because the insurance mafia doesn't want to give up the money. That's really what it comes down to. So at the end of the day, what I hope we learn from this video is that the problem here is not your primary care manager. The problem here isn't even the pharmacist. The problem here is the system that allows these insurance companies to take advantage of you and take advantage of me and then put it on us as being part of the problem. Now, of course, unfortunately right now, there's not a perfect solution to these issues. Okay, but there are pharmacies popping up that are offering medications, many great medications for cash with transparent pricing. Cost Plus is one of them. I haven't looked into, nor am I advocating for Trump RX, but I've heard that the potential there is great. We have partnered with a pharmacy that will send medications directly to patient stores as part of the membership cost. So we're coming up with solutions to get around this insurance problem. There's also health shares. There are health shares available that are willing to cover a percentage of cost for medications. Okay. So again, to summarize, the problem here is not your PCM not wanting to help. The problem here is not the pharmacist not wanting to provide the medication. The problem here is a corrupt system that is trying to maximize profits at your expense. At this point, I don't think I have to prove that. I hope that's clear to all of y'all. And so some workarounds, consider joining a direct primary care. If you're in Fayetteville, consider joining us today. If you haven't looked into health shares, there's some great health shares online that you can look at. You literally Google health share guide and find like a 2026 version. Matter of fact, I'll put it in the comment sections below. But at the end of the day, just please understand that the problem here is not the people trying to offer you services. I hope that clarifies things. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I always welcome you to comment below. Thank you again, you guys, so much for watching. And if you're not following us on Facebook, please feel free to do so. God bless you.